As you know, in my talks, I don't forget my roots. I don't forget where I came from. And the reason I don't do that is so that I can reach people who are existing today and they're in that state. And of course, some listeners want to know about things like non-duality, things like consciousness, and how to break out of certain cycles, what the ego does, where it comes from, how it behaves, what we can do about that. And so there's always a sense in me that you've got to take care of everybody, you know. Maybe, I don't know how good I am at that, but I try my best. That's why I used to get a phone call. I used to do lots of speaking all over the place. And I get a phone call from somewhere and they'd say, can you come up for a couple of days and maybe do 3 or 4 meetings? And I often used to say, yes, I will. Yeah, I'll come. But you've got to get me in the local jail, you know. And they'd think, well, how are we going to do that? And I'd say, well, just give them a call, you know, tell them who I am and arrange something, you know. And when I used to go to a prison, I've been to lots and lots of them in different countries to do talks, I used to say, you know, I don't kid myself for 1 minute that I'm reaching everybody here. I'm not speaking to everybody. A lot of you are fiddling around and your mind is somewhere else and wherever. You don't like the look of me, you don't like my voice. It could be all sorts of reasons why someone's there. But I used to always say in a mentor, I say, but there might be just one of you who's like me. Just one of you, maybe 2, who you can't tell anybody, but you're crying in the inside. You're bleeding everywhere. Your soul's bleeding everywhere. You don't know how to get it back together. You're dying in this place. You can't take it anymore. You can't cope. And you desperately need an answer from somebody. And I'm only here for half an hour, 40 minutes. So I'm going to give you, whoever you are, I may never hear a letter from you. I may never know you. But I'm going to give you 100%, even though I can't see your face. I don't know which one you are. And then I'd tell the truth, the story, you know. I've been so fortunate in my journey in life that I did hear stories back. I mean, I used to get stacks of mail and all sorts from, you know, and the stories bring tears to your eyes, you know. Tears to your eyes because you made a difference. You know, I don't know how far people went on the journey. I don't know how well or badly they did or anything. But it has to start somewhere. And so that's what I love about these talks and going to jails and going to anywhere really, if I'm honest with you, to speak. Because you're just starting the journey off of somebody and then it's going to, might like me for a while and then it's somebody else and all those different things it takes to get there. And I think it's fantastic. So in that respect, you got to go backwards to go forwards, you know. I do a talk, sometimes you got to dip right into the past and some very basic things. But other times we've got to talk about some more profound things because that's where we're going. So we need to know about the whole trip. You know, one of the things in my mind right now is thinking, you know, don't ignore the small stuff. You know, sometimes the answer's just, it's sat there looking at you or it's nudging you, it's giving you a little something, you know. I told you on previous videos that the last time I was in court and the proceedings are going on and I went through this thing where I said, you know, you don't know me, nobody really knows me. Well, the only reason I knew that is because something deep inside did know me, you know. So there was a clue in there somewhere. And I had this experience of who I really was in the courtroom. I couldn't explain it, I still can't explain it now. But that was the beginning of something happening, you know. But on that day, the judge sentenced me. I went down the stairs. I was handcuffed. I was taken in a vehicle with other prisoners to a great big jail in Liverpool. And it was a fight for survival straight away. I forgot all about that stuff in the court. Forgot all about sort of anything spiritual. I didn't know anything about things like that. You know, and they had me down as either to be killed or kill. They didn't like me, you know. And it was difficult. But I worked in a big workshop, horrible place. The toilets were disgusting and there was a big perspex screens there, so obviously everyone can be seen. And everyone would just go in there and have a cigarette and a little bit of talk and blah, 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 passing things around. And I just was in there one day, you know, just went in, had a pee and I had a smoke. And I overhears a conversation. This guy, he'd been in a prison where they did therapy, and the conditions were good, and they played football, and the food was nice, and blah blah blah. And no one in the world would know that I was listening to this. No one in the world would know that it was knocking on my heart. Something going on here. So it really put the hook in me. I don't know why, put the hook right in me. So I clocked the guy who's talking. And then later on, I was working on this machine, and I sees him going. He's going for a cigarette in the bathrooms. So I'm over there quickly, and I said to him, you know, excuse me. And I had the chat. So what is this place? You know, and he's telling me this, that, and the other. I said, how did you get? You know, how come you're here? He says, oh well, we made a load of hooch. You know, we got pissed, and they threw us out. You know, and I thought, my God, what an idiot! How'd you get thrown out of a place like that? You know, you must be mad. So anyway, he told me the name of it. I said, well, how'd you get there? You know, he said, well, go and see the doctor. Telling me going crazy or something. So this is the big first lessons in anything to do with therapy or the psychology. I didn't know anything. So overheard conversation, hooked up with him later on, asked him the question, put my name down to see the doctor. Said to the doctor, you know, I'm cracking up and going around in circles in my whole life. I go nowhere. If I don't do something, how's it going to be? You know, so the next thing, I had another appointment with a psychologist, a psychiatrist or something. I don't know what it was. And, you know, went a step further. And I went back to my cell, and I said to the guy who was sharing the cell, I'm going to try and get to Grendon where there's good food and blah, blah, blah. And he's just laughing. No, you got no chance. You got no chance. Like this. I said, well, you know, tried my luck. Next thing you know, his mouth drops wide open. Key in the door, opens the door, shouts my name. You're being moved to Grendon in 2 weeks or something like that. It was like no time. And what I didn't know, I found out later, they were sick to death of me in that prison. They said I was a danger, and you know, get him out of here. So I was on my way, and you know, I went down to reception, got my clothes on, handcuffed to an officer, and there's a golden taxi waiting for me. So I'm in the golden taxi. So you think, you know, something in me happened in court, you know, and then I hear our conversation and follows the guy up. It goes to the doctor, he sends me to the shrink, it tells the shrink, and now the next thing I'm on my way. So it's like, he listen to the little things, you know, you got to listen to the little things. And one of the things, you know, you hear me talking, I don't need to go over all the old ground, but one of the things about the ego, you know, I said when I was in Grendon, I was like as if I was stuck in a can, except it was a robot. And it was very sophisticated because I developed the robot to protect myself and to know what to do and how to behave. But what I didn't know, which is none of us know, is that now becomes a prison. That's the prison I was in. You could let me out of the big prison, and I'm still in the prison. You know, and that was the problem, see, I kept getting released and I was still in the prison all the time, in this thing, in this definition that I'd made up, and I couldn't get out. And we all know about this, really. I mean, I've talked about this, but it's the egoic structure. And one of the things I talk about, and this is what I mean by going forward, okay, is that I started to get rid of who I really was, which is inside the tin, the reality of who I really am. I pushed it down and squashed it into this thing, and this was the outer image, Mr. Smart Guy, Mr. Big Know-It-All, Mr. Fighting on the streets and drugs and drink and all the rest of it. But underneath, I was someone completely different. And I talked about how that happened in adolescence, okay? But the truth is, it starts younger than that. It starts younger than adolescence. You don't need to know that right now, maybe, where you are, but it starts younger than that. And it starts off by being separate. We start off saying, you know, you're you and I'm me, and this is the world, and who am I in the world? We feel small and we feel disconnected. And even the mention of God, it's like, oh, you know, oh God, I don't want God catching up with me, and is there the devil as well? And, you know, we feel separate from everything. And but this is the thing, see, even if we do break out of this definition, and many people do, we get out and we start to feel good and we put the past behind us and we're moving on, and it's going really, really well, okay? Our life has changed, we've got a great testimony. But what if we find that we keep searching all the time? You see, the clue that we haven't really found what we really want is that we're still searching. And the reason why we search is because we still feel disconnected to what we're searching for. You see, if we found the ultimate, then there's no search. There's no search. We just exist. We just exist in it. Life really, in a way, is easy. It's simple. And like I said before, one of the probably the most pertinent expression I could bring. First of all, is nothing really matters. Kind of does, but it doesn't. And the other word that I've found in myself, in my eternal finding, is that a sense of indifference. Easy.